Om Shanti, and welcome to the Murli study. Today we are looking at the Murli of 10th of January 2024. And in this Murli, Baba's taking up the metaphor of a tower. And normally when we hear the word tower, we're thinking about a high-rise building, but Baba is taking us to much higher altitudes than a high-rise building. And so we will see how he takes this metaphor, referring to the ultimate heights of happiness, the heights of the dimension of the soul world. And so our sense of the word tower has a new meaning. So the essence, sweet children, if you remember Alif and Bay. So Alif and Bay is the Arabic alphabet. And as you know, Brahma Baba was living in Hyderabad, Sindh, which was a predominantly Islamic area. And the Sindhi language is also written in Arabic script, not in the Devangari script of the Hindi language. And it was later on that Baba told all the BKs that, and this was after partition and after they had moved to India, so sometime in the 50s, when India decided to make Hindi the national language. And then later on, it added a totality of 9 languages to be official languages of India. But initially, the ABC was in Arabic script, so Alif and Bay. And Alif is a vertical line with a little dot on top, and Bay is a curved line. So Aleph represents Sheikh Baba and Bay represents the kingdom. So Aleph is Allah, God, and Bay is Badshahi, the fortune of the kingdom. So sweet children, if you remember Aleph and Bay, A and B, the father and the inheritance, the level of your happiness will remain high. This word Mercury refers to temperature. And in those days, thermometers were always made with mercury. Nowadays, everything is electronic. And so this word mercury referring to temperature is no longer used, but at that time it was. So this is a simple question of just a second. And the question, who has limitless happiness and how to keep the level of your happiness constantly high? Now, the answer, those who practice being bodiless and imbibe or grasp what the Father tells them and who inspire others to grasp it, they also experience limitless happiness. For the level of your happiness to remain steadily high, continue to donate the imperishable jewels of knowledge, bring benefit to others. Stay aware that you are now going to the highest level of prosperity and peace, and you will remain happy. So Baba is telling us these things in the context of a collapsing world where there's a lot of war, where the infrastructures are falling apart, where people's livelihoods are very damaged and maybe destroyed. And so Baba is talking about what to keep in mind so that you can stay happy as opposed to being distressed by what's going on around you. Om Shanti. Baba has the thought to have you children write down in a second whose remembrance you are sitting in. It doesn't take time to write this down, and each of you can write it in a second and show Baba. So everyone in the class wrote it down and showed it to Baba. So you can understand it was a very small class. Baba was speaking in Abu in Madhuban, and that would have been in the history hall. So the number of people who could stay in Madhuban while Brahma Baba was there was very small. Pandabhavan could hold maybe initially about only 20 people. And then gradually more accommodation was built, but the class was always quite small. So everyone could write it and show it to Baba. And then Baba also wrote it down. And no one had written what Baba had written. Baba had written Aleph and Bay. It is so simple. Aleph is for Baba, and Bay is for the kingdom, like A for apple, B for bat. Baba is teaching you, and you are attaining your kingdom. There's no need to write anything else. You took more than 2 minutes to write it. To write Aleph and Bay takes a second. So Baba is saying that when you are in a sudden and unexpected situation that requires you to be connected with Baba, you have to be able to do it really fast. And this is not obvious from this Murli, but this is what Baba is training everyone to be able to do. He says, sannyasis remember only Aleph, but you remember your sovereignty also. So what this means is that sannyasis believe that material happiness, material wealth is not worth going for because it's so temporary and so ephemeral. So they remember the incorporeal world of light, or they say they remember God, but thinking of God as omnipresent. So they don't distinguish between one thing and another. Everything is all one thing. So you remember God and the kingdom. Cultivate the habit of being in remembrance. When you understand this, then the level of your happiness stays high. Aleph refers to the highest place. So that's the soul world. He used to say, remember Baba in the soul world. So even if Shiv Baba was there in the body of Brahma Baba in front of everyone, he would still say, remember me in the soul world, not down here. So Aleph refers to the highest place. Nothing is higher than the soul world. He resides in the highest place of all. No one knows the meaning of the expression liberation and liberation in life in a second. So this is one of the beliefs of Hinduism, that enlightenment means liberation, mukti and jivan mukti in a second. So there must definitely be a significance to this well-used phrase. When a child is born, the astrologers write that he was born at this hour, this minute, this second. Hand of the clock continues to tick, and in the space of time of one tick, you can say Aleph and B. It takes less than a second. So he's preparing everyone for an immediate ability to connect the mind to God. Because when you die, sometimes you know, and it's a slow thing, but quite often it's a very rapid thing. And in the destruction, in general, it will be very rapid. So you have to be so fast that you remember God at the time of leaving the body. So it takes less than a second. There's no need to even say it. You are already aware of it. You should have a good stage. But that happens when you have the practice of remembrance. While sitting here, remember both the Father and the kingdom. When you understand this, it is called divine insight. So this expression, divine insight, is for the Hindi, divya drishti. So there is this expression, divya buddhi and divya drishti. So one of the descriptions of God, which you find on a poster that was created at that time, Sheikh Baba with the rays, and in each of the rays, different quality of God was written. And one of them is that he is the giver of Divya Drishti and Divya Buddhi. So a divine intellect and a divine insight. So Drishti refers to visions, but it also refers to understanding. So he says the soul understands. You cannot perceive God as a physical sense perception or even in a subtle way, but the key is understanding. The soul remembers the Father. And when you remember the Father, you also remember the kingdom. How long does it take? A second. Here, when you sit in remembrance, you would experience joy. So when you're connected, you experience this energy, this flow of light and power, and also you experience a great deal of happiness. Baba too is sitting here in happiness. This is Brahma Baba speaking. The Father doesn't remember anything of the material world, but is conscious of things of the new world. It is as though Baba and the kingdom are standing at your door. The Father says, I brought the kingdom for you children. When you do not sustain your remembrance, then your happiness would not be stable. While sitting and while in action, consider yourselves to be souls and remember me, your Father, and your inheritance. The place where the soul dwells is so high, not really in the sense of altitude, although when you think about it as being beyond the sun, moon, and stars, the pictures always show it as vertically above, but is a different dimension. The world is unaware of this. People try hard to attain liberation, nirvana. But where is that dimension of liberation? You understand that each soul is like a rocket. Those people go to the moon, but beyond that is space. So you are traveling beyond space. The moon is still in this physical universe, but the expression in religious language is that you go beyond the sun and the moon, even beyond sound. So beyond sound means nirvana. Vani is the word for sound, and nir means beyond sound, nirvana. You have to leave your bodies. You came here from the sweet silence home. It doesn't take long to come and go. It's not about physical traveling, but traveling by thought, traveling in the mind, so it's instant. That is your home. Here in this world, it takes time to travel anywhere. But when a soul leaves his body, he goes so far in a second that there's no dimension of time in that. The soul leaves one body and enters another instantly. Consider yourselves to be souls. You are going to the very highest place. People desire peace. So the soul world is also called the world of peace, Shantidam. So you want to go to nirvana, you want to go to a place of quiet. So the word Shanti doesn't just mean peace, it means immobile, and it also means silent as well as peace. So the highest place of peace is the incorporeal world, and the highest peak of happiness is heaven. The highest is called a tower. So Baba brings in this word tower, which comes in the Murli a lot. So your home is also so high. So the word towering also means something very, very high. People of the world do not think about this, and there is no one to explain to them. The soul world can be called the Tower of Peace. People continue to call for peace in the world, but they do not know the meaning of that place where there is peace. That means they don't know it's about going to nirvana. Because this word Shanti means also immobility and silence. That means also that there's no thought. And so that can only be in nirvana, it cannot be in the material world. So Lakshmi and Narayan live in a tower of happiness, that is a place which is ultimate happiness, where there is no greed or desire. Their food and drink and way of speaking are royal, and they experience the highest prosperity. They are praised due to their spiritual efforts. That means the spiritual efforts of this birth. They are not alone. A whole rosary of such souls was created. The 9 jewels are remembered. So there are several rosaries. So the smallest one is the 9 jewels. Then comes the 108, then the 16,108, and then the 900,000. So the rosary of 9 jewels is Shiv Baba in the middle, and then the 8 are circling that one. And it's usually made in the form of a ring of different colored diamonds. When you remember the Father and the inheritance, the weight of your sins is neutralized. However, the energy of Maya obstructs remembrance. You get pulled by emotions of lust or anger. You have to check your pulse. Narad was told to see his face in the mirror, and that was that he was angered at being rejected. So this Maya means this energy of sense perception which creates an emotion, and it can be a sense perception that you experience right then and there, but mostly in meditation, when you're trying to have meditation and your mind goes to a memory, and that will create an emotion which will give you the feelings of lust or anger or whatever. And so these are called storms or winds. And this is referred to in the Gita. So check your pulse, see how you're doing. So Narad was angered at getting rejected. And this was a story about how he wanted Lakshmi, but Lakshmi chose Narayan. So Baba says you have not yet developed that stage of equanimity. So equanimity, this is again a reference to the Gita or a quote from the Gita about equanimity in the face of the pairs of opposites. And in the Gita, it also talks about the soul being tossed around by the winds of emotions due to the different vices, which are really emotions that are responses to sense perceptions that give you pleasure or pain. Baba has shown you your target. Continue to make effort internally. As you progress, you will achieve that stage. Practice being bodiless. You are now to return home. Baba has said, remember me. If you do not remember me, you will experience pain and your status will be reduced. These are very subtle concepts. The Baba's preparing the soul for the end, the last time that you leave the body, and it will be in a time of tremendously dramatic circumstances, and you have to be well practiced in order to instantly detach yourself and let go of everything as well as your body, because otherwise, if you're pulled into what's going on, you will definitely experience pain, and it'll be because you have not made yourself karmatit. Scientists go so deep into technology. Look at what they are creating. All these weapons of war and different elements that are needed to take over the world, essentially. So these sanskaras are also needed so that they can go there to the soul world and create, not the soul world, the golden age, and create the instruments and machines of the future new world. So there will be a final war, and the scientific community will most likely go into a space station for the last nuclear war, and then they will come down again. So they will not go to the soul world and then come down as deities, but they will go to, they'll come down to the world of India, and I think their original intention is they would take over the world, but then they would land in India and discover that there are people already there, and that among those people there are these deities or almost deities. And so they offer their knowledge and they help to build up the new cities of the new world. So this world has to finish. The people will go from here and take birth according to the sanskaras they have developed at the present time. So that means there will also be some who will take birth over there with all these sanskaras of science and technology. But it refers to anyone who leaves the body will take birth according to their sanskaras. So those who fight in the military have the sanskaras of battle, and they will carry those sanskaras into the next birth. They will be internally compelled to fight. An officer would have a queue of soldiers in front of him, and at the time of registering them, they check their state of health, they check that their sight and hearing function well to be in the army. So here too, it is seen which of you have the potential to become the beads of the rosary of victory. Sometimes Baba says that we are the spiritual military, the army of those who are creating the new world. So, which of you have the potential to become the beads of the rosary of victory? Make effort and attain the karmatit stage. Souls come to earth bodiless and they return to the home bodiless. There is no physical relationship among you in the world of light. So when you're in the soul world, you have absolutely no experience, no thought. And a lot of people think that they can experience love and peace and bliss and light and so on in the soul world. No. This you experience in your mind here. So become bodiless now. Souls come from there and enter bodies here. And many souls are still continuing to come. Each soul, each of you has your own part. New pure souls definitely experience a fulfilled life at first, and this is why they are praised. The tree is vast. There are many well-known people. All of you will live in prosperity according to your own capacity. So many well-known people in the world today means it's pretty much their first births or near to that. And for you, you're in your last birth, so you will not be well-known. In the golden age, you will live in prosperity, but your position will depend on your capacity, which it depends on your spiritual effort. So now you have to make effort. Practice to be pure, live a life of purity, and return back to the soul world in your karmatit stage. So check your actions. Do I cause anyone sorrow? The Father is sweet. He is the most beloved. So you must become the same. You know that the Father is here. Shiv Baba has incarnated, he's here. People of the world do not know that the Father is carrying out the establishment here. Even so, they have been remembering him for many births. The devotees go to Shiva temples and they worship the image of Shiva. And they travel to the high mountain peaks, to places like the temple of Badrinath. There are many melas, big gatherings, because he is very sweet. The devotees sing that God is the highest on high, and they would only focus on the incorporeal one. So the incorporeal one is perpetual. He's called Sada Shiva. Sada Shiva means he's the same. He is immutable, doesn't change. All the human souls change. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar are below Shiv Baba. They cannot be called God. You now understand that you too were subtle pradhan deities. And when you were masters of the world, the global population was very small. The deity's kingdom was only in Bharat. All the rest of the souls, they will have gone to the world of peace, the soul world. You continue to observe all this. A broad and unlimited intellect is needed. You can't afford to have emotional reactions or angry or upset or any kind of reaction to things that are going on, because you have to be able to have compassion and empathy without being pulled into it, so that your mind and intellect remain balanced as a broad and unlimited intellect. In the golden age, you will not travel to the mountains. There will be no accidents. Heaven is a wonder. And when the wonder of heaven has passed, then the present world becomes the wonder of Maya. So Maya in the sense that it's illusory, it looks good, but it's not really. People of the world cannot understand this. You are now making effort to go to the world of heaven. Heaven is the place of ultimate happiness, the highest happiness, the tower of happiness. Whereas this is ultimate sorrow, is the worst, the most maximum amount of sorrow. So many people are dying in the war every day. So they must be immediately taking birth again, reincarnating. People are convinced that you cannot define God. This word, they say be'ant. Be'ant, literally you can say reach the end, but that means define. So God is a point, not a physical point. You cannot define a point in physical terms. The Father says, no one knows the beginning, the middle, or end of this creation. The sages and holy men are unable to define the Creator or the creation. And they know this. It's a well-known phrase that the Creator and the creation are indefinable, they say. But the Father is teaching you. This is study. And you are the only ones who have come to know the secret of the world cycle. It's identical repetition. Those people say that they do not know, or they declare it is billions of years. The Father has explained that nothing that you can see now will exist there in the golden age. Heaven is the tower, the ultimate peak of happiness, whereas here there is only distress. Death will come suddenly in such a way that everyone will die. That means instantly. This is why Baba is getting us to practice to be instantly in that consciousness, soul consciousness, God consciousness, ready to go in an instant. So he's referring to the nuclear war. Everything is finished very, very fast. To witness such death is not easy. This is called the peak of distress and horror, and the new world is the peak of happiness. It's a total opposite. There is no other word for it. Many of you are listening to this, but are unable to grasp it. You can understand this when your intellects become pure and golden aged. That means your ability to think logically is different because of circular thinking, because you're not your intellectual process is not influenced by preconceptions and other people's ideas about what's okay or not okay. If you do not grasp this knowledge, you will not experience happiness. It's very, very different from how people normally think, to understand this knowledge and to realize that this kind of reality that you can get onto, this level of reality, enables you to experience a happiness that's nothing to do with what's going on around you. Some of you study at the highest level and others study at the lowest level. No matter how much the unlimited Father explains to them, those who study at the lowest level, they will never understand. You cannot become pure without remembrance. The Father is like a magnet. He has the highest power, that is the power to pull the soul. So the soul is often compared with a needle. When the magnet is very strong, you are just pulled and instantly hold on to the magnet. Sheep Baba can never get corroded. All others are corroded. So when iron oxidizes, it gets corroded and the magnet doesn't pull the corroded needle. So now remove the corrosion and become Sato Pradhan once again. The Father says, constantly remember me alone. Let there be no attachment to anyone. So attachment, you get attached to the magnet. So if you're attached to someone, then you're not attached to Shiv Baba. And anyone that you're attached to will not be able to fulfill your needs. And so they will deceive you. Wealthy people see their wealth throughout the day. And poor people don't have anything. And if they are intelligent, they can grasp this, the ability to totally let go of everything. When you don't have anything anyway, it's not difficult. So those who can remain detached from the wealth, they will focus on how the corrosion can be removed with remembrance and how they can become pure. You have come to achieve the highest peak. And you know that by following the Father's teachings, you will reach the highest peak of happiness. But this requires effort. It's an effort to understand the subtlety of this. The Father comes here to take you to the tower, the highest state. So you have to follow Shrimat. Lakshmi and Narayan are remembered as number one. They would be in the highest position of the tower, and others would be below them. So the new world is called the Tower of Happiness. There is nothing dirty there, no pollution, no dust or pollution that could damage the buildings there as it is here. There's a lot of praise of heaven, and you have to make the effort for that. It's a completely new civilization where even the elements of matter are new, absolutely no pollution. Otherwise, India at the moment is very, very polluted, and the air is, especially in Delhi, mostly unbreathable. Lakshmi and Narayan are so elevated, and when you see their images, you feel happy. As you move forward, many will have visions. There were many visions at the beginning in which Baba showed you so much splendor. You would see yourselves wearing crowns and fine robes. You cannot find those things in the world here. Brahma Baba was a jewel merchant, and so jewels that used to cost 50,000 in earlier days cannot be bought for even 5 million today. You are making effort for heaven, and there is limitless prosperity there. The Father is teaching you so much, but there is a huge difference among you. Some people really understand this, and a large number of people really don't. In the same way, there's a vast difference between the kings and queens and the maids and servants. Those who study well and teach others cannot be hidden, and people come to know who they are. They would say, Baba, I am going to such and such a place to do service. There is much service to be done. You must change this jungle into a temple. Temple means a beautiful place, a clean place. So whether you've eaten or not, just run and do service. That means something will come up. So don't say, oh, later, but Do it now. This is what businessmen do. When a good customer comes, that means somebody rich, they run, whether they finish their lunch or not, because they're interested in earning money. Here, you receive limitless wealth from the unlimited Father. But even though there is still time, there's no guarantee, because you don't know when you will die. You might leave your body tomorrow. So take advantage of these opportunities to enrich yourself. Destruction has to take place. And this expression that is so well known is about you. Death for the prey and happiness for the hunter. It's a story about a cat and a mouse, a little bit like Tom and Jerry. So it's actually Miroir Mort. So Miroir is the name of the mouse. He gets death. And Maluka, the cat, gets lunch. So death for the mouse and lunch for the cat. That means that, you have to become so beyond that you're able to pass through the destruction without getting traumatized. So he's getting us to practice for this. There is no limit to your prosperity in the golden age. So you should feel limitless happiness. You must benefit many others. At the end, you will reach your karmatit stage. You'll be in remembrance, and suddenly you will fly as you become bodiless. But this ability to just leave the moment it happens requires a lot of prior effort. Some do a lot of service, and they spend the whole day explaining at the museum. They're engaged in doing service day and night. Hundreds of museums will open. Hundreds of thousands of people will come. And at that time, you will not have any time for yourself. You will have the maximum number of shops of these imperishable jewels of knowledge. So at the moment, in India, there's a huge interest in Brahmakumaris, but for this global interest in this knowledge to awaken, something will happen. We don't know what, but something. And so he wants us to be ready for that. Acha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, the father, Bap Dada. And the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children. Spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. And the essence for Dharna, to grasp this knowledge, make your intellect golden aged. Do not depend on anyone but the Father. To attain the karmatit stage and return home, practice being bodiless. Check your actions to see that you do not cause sorrow for anyone. Ask yourself, am I as sweet as the Father? And the blessing, may you be constantly victorious by developing the power of tolerance and being true. Means tell the truth. People of the world say it's difficult to be honest in this world and they have to tell lies. Many BKs also think that they have to be devious and manipulative. But you saw Father Brahma. He had to face so much opposition because he stood up for the truth and purity. He was not afraid. If you stand up for the truth, you need the power of tolerance because you will be violently opposed. So you have to endure. You may have to bow down, you may have to accept oppression, But that doesn't mean you are defeated. It is actually not defeat, but victory for all time. And the slogan is to be happy and make others happy, give and receive blessings. So there is the expression for this month of January. With Avyat silence, experience the double light angelic stage. Mine is one Baba, means everything that you consider yours is contained in one Baba, merged in the one. The power of concentration easily enables you to experience the Avyat angelic stage. So let your mind concentrate on what you want, how you want it, and for how long you want. This is power. You want to do what you want, when you want, how you want, if you want, for as long as you want. This is known as having your mind under your control. With this concentration, this stable and constant stage of sweet silence, you will easily experience the double light angelic stage. So let me welcome Sister Rose to our gathering. How are you, Sister Rose? Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Sister Denise. Thank you for again presenting this Murli and translating it with some words that for me, has become more concrete, tangible, and again, easier to understand. Sister Denise, the word happiness came up a lot in today's Murli, and Baba equated or connected this to the degree of our remembrance of him. So, like he said, when you understand, then the level of your happiness stays high. And when you don't sustain your remembrance, your happiness is not stable. And you mentioned a while ago that this is a happiness that has nothing to do with what's going around here.
You see, the thing is, people are pretty materialistic, and that includes Baba's children. You know, this word happiness refers to, are you comfortable? Do you have nice things? Do you have good food to eat? Do you have a nice place to live? All these material benefits are classified as happiness. And you noticed that he talked about, you know, when people had visions of heaven, they were wearing golden crowns with all kinds of serious big jewels in them, of very expensive clothes. And, you know, he was talking to people, you know, in India, this whole thing of physical comforts and money and fine clothes and so on, very much part of the Sindhi raison d'etre, because they're business people. And a pretty large percentage of people who are devotees and come into Gyan are also business people, maybe small business people or big business people, but mostly small business people. And their ideas about good life has all to do with material attainments. And so he uses that to say, look, all of these things that are there here, they are very ephemeral. You can easily lose everything. But focus your attention on the golden age and you will be able to experience happiness. And also, there is the emotion of happiness. So the emotion of happiness, that people experience happiness when they have good relationships, when they feel loved, when they feel honored, when they are in a high position, and so on, and they feel life is good. And it's also a circumstance for many people, especially women, where there is a lot of domestic violence, a lot of abuse, and so they may have a lot of money but be unhappy because of that. So Baba was also getting people to let go of this world, because like when you prepare yourself for marriage, you dress up in great finery, and then you go and find yourself as a slave, basically, in a patriarchal system. And then you are not happy. And so the golden age is not like that. And Baba is enabling you to have that. So he's getting the people to let go of their expectations and assumptions of their family. Even you see what happens in regular life is people die before their time, you can say. And so children lose their parents, parents lose their children. And because they have a lot of attachment and all their sense of identity is based on their relationships, so their happiness is not stable. But if your happiness comes from understanding and in relationship with Baba, you can be stable regardless of what's going on around.
Okay. Also today, Baba talk about remembering him and remembering the kingdom. So when he said, when you remember the Father, then you also remember the kingdom. So personally, my remembrance is usually Baba in the soul world. And so what is remembering the kingdom like? What does it look like?
It's to do with, okay, you're remembering Baba, but why? Why are you remembering Baba? And again, it goes back to these material ambitions that people have. You remember God. God is establishing the kingdom, do this work. Maybe it's hard work, but it's like in any business. You work hard and then you achieve wealth and then you have a good life. So Baba's very much still in that description of, the kingdom is like far, far better than anything you could get in this world, and which is stable happiness. You see, everyone in this world is, whether they admit it or not, impressed by money. And as they say, money talks. So people want money because it gives power. People honor you, they respect you. So they want that. And so Baba's saying, okay, you're giving up everything, but you're not just going to be without anything. You're just giving up something temporarily because you're going to achieve so much. So he's getting people to be willing to make sacrifices for something greater.
So the fortune of the kingdom is a result of my effort now.
Yes.
Which is something, do I have to remember that consciously?
I don't think you have to, actually. It really, you have to think about what your motivations are. And you see, in the days when Baba was teaching this, he was teaching people who were very young, and who he wanted to prepare them for a life of spiritual life, and get them to give up their expectations and desires for all this wealth that is normally the purpose of life in the Sindhi community. You see, and it may not be the purpose of life of everybody, but it is for a pretty large number of people. I think that if you look at ourselves, we're not here because of the money. I mean, there are a lot of people who think, yeah, let me have a fancy car and big fat center and lots of money and travel around in business class or first class in the airplanes and be wonderful, marvelous, and fantastic. And everybody thinks I'm already Lakshmi and Narayan, but that's not really why we're doing this. But I mean, there are a lot of people who do go for that. We're going for something much more subtle.
Sister Denise, you are, I think, is the one who talks about sense perceptions a lot.
Mm.
And in fact, I have heard this only from you. In the Murli notes that you wrote of January 7, there is one of the sentences is the experience of the collapse of the old world is essentially sense perception.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Soul consciousness means that you understand a reality that is different from the reality of sense perception. Now, most people in the world do not. All they know is sense perception. That means they exist. So body consciousness doesn't mean I'm conscious that I have a body. No. Body consciousness means that everything that's real is what you perceive through the senses, which means that when you are seeing the destruction, nowadays you see an awful lot of destruction on the media because of the wars that are going on in Ukraine and in Gaza and all these areas, Sudan, Somalia, all this. So people cannot bear it. And the power of being in those circumstances completely takes over your whole mind. And you cannot let go because you're emotionally very impacted, very involved, and you're trying to deal with it unsuccessfully. So Baba spends a lot of time on us, and it's also very strongly mentioned in the Gita that if you want to be a yogi, a Raj yogi, then you must distinguish between reality as perceived through the senses and real reality, which is independent of sense perception. But it's a material world. People are materialistic, and they are many people are just unable to think of it any other way. And even if people are able to think about it, it's just conceptual, because as soon as there's something that you're attached to, then you can't let go. So people, places, and things. And you see that the motivations why people do negative action is because of their sense of identity, their rights according to their physical identity, who's okay, who's not okay, the values based on body consciousness are very deceptive. And you cannot have yoga as a materialist. It's not possible. But then you see, to what extent do you grasp this knowledge? He was also talking about that in the Murli today, that very, very few of you can grasp this. He's telling a lot, but most people don't get it, and you see that a lot with the kind of service programs that are going on, which are very much to do with sense perception. And the kind of teachings that are going on, you don't have many people who are really teaching people about going beyond sense perception. But I do, because that's what Raj Yoga is really all about. And if anybody's interested, well, we can talk about it. But don't expect the majority to grasp it. It's just like that.
Somehow the words you used, sense perceptions, give again a deeper understanding of what body consciousness is.
Mm.
And then Baba also talked about the karmatic stage, something which you also mentioned in the Murli notes of January 7. And you talk about being able to move from one cycle to another cycle, and the consciousness that is needed in order to be able to do that, to be able to let go of what's here now and move into that dimension that is not yet seen, and being free is really the karmatic stage.
Exactly. Someone once asked Daddy Gulzar, okay, how do you go to heaven? And she said, well, it's very simple. You close your eyes and then you open them again. So she's talking about the instant of letting go and the instant of getting reborn, because when you go to the soul world, no matter what, there's no experience, there's no sense that you exist. You close your eyes, you leave, you open your eyes, you've arrived. And so you can practice that, but to grasp that, it's not a normal thing. You can't expect everybody to be able to do that. But if you do recognize it and you can understand it, then you're in a cycle of 5,000 years cycle, where the difference between one cycle and another cycle is the instant of closing your eyes and opening them again. Just a blink, and that is very extraordinary. Yeah.
I heard that actually in one of Daddy Gulzar's classes. You just blink, you just close your eyes, and then when you open, you're already in golden age.
Yes.
Sister Denise, I think the one who asked this may have missed your explanation, but just the same, I will ask it. I always wondered how to remember Shiv Baba in the incorporeal world, as there is no thought, no feeling, nothing except silence or peace. I would be grateful if this distinction between world dimension was clarified.
No, the thing is this: you are here on this earth, in this body, remembering Shiv Baba in the incorporeal world. That means you have your sense perception. You have your information. You know that Shiv Baba is there in the incorporeal world. But when you are actually there, you will not be able to experience anything. But right now you're here, so you can experience wherever your mind is focused. That will engender your experience. So this is the nature of the mind. If you're focused on these concepts deeply enough and attentively enough, this focus of the mind enables you to experience it, you see. Because Shiv Baba communicates to you and says, okay, I'm here, you're here, we're communicating through bodies about something that is bodiless. And so you just need to understand that. Now, there are people who have this belief that when I go to the soul world, I will experience this and that, assuming this to mean after you have left your body. No. When you go to the soul world in your mind while being in this body, then you'll experience, but not otherwise. So I hope that's clear. And I hope people don't get disappointed. Actually, people do get disappointed, but it's because they haven't grasped the knowledge. And this is what Baba was talking about in the Murli today, that not everybody can grasp it, no matter how much Baba explains to someone. You can't necessarily grasp it because of an explanation. You grasp it if you are a person who can grasp it. And there's a big difference. He talked about that. Very few can grasp it, very many cannot. It's the way it is. Now, if you want to open up your grasping power, then you need to really practice to transcend the limitations of material consciousness. And that can be done by deep inner effort, because you don't know who you are. And sometimes you have something that blocks you from getting it. But if you keep working at it, that block can come off and then you get it. And that's why it's worth doing it.
Okay, you just answered my next question. Okay, Sister Denise, some from Zoom and Facebook. Baba is very sweet and you have to become sweet. Apart from meaning very loving, compassionate, and benevolent, is there more to this quality of being sweet, especially in reference to Baba?
Well, do you know Baba? You're in relationship with Baba. You're in relationship with God. You have been a devotee for 63 births. There is something inside your subconscious to do with your lifelong, many lifelong interest in God, love for God, search for God, search for truth. Maybe you would have had special experiences, visions, insights. And as you develop and cultivate your relationship with Shiv Baba now in the confluence age, you begin to discover him. And that's personal. And this is, you know someone when you interact with them. You don't know somebody by somebody else telling you about them. This is why I don't like biodata. People always asking me, what's your biodata? I said, it's nothing to do with who I am. And in the same way with Shiv Baba, you need to, engage in a relationship, build a relationship in order to discover that person. Like with any human relationship, you discover it by interacting over a long period of time.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me read. It is said that in the Golden Age, there is a society stratified into social classes, emperors, kings, servants, just as there is now at the end of the cycle. Is it because as the cycle turns, this existing society, this existing social structure remains? Krishna is the prince who is born in a palace surrounded by servants. It is as if the final social structure of the cycle continues into the new cycle.
Well, it's not really that. That's not a best way, I think, of looking at it. But it's about understanding that, we live in this world which talks about equality. And equality doesn't mean that we're all clones. Every soul is different. And every soul has a number. Nobody knows what their number is. And you get born according to your role, according to your karma. And this expresses itself in your circumstances of your birth, how beautiful you are, how intelligent you are, how athletic you are, what particular talents you've got, etc., etc. And so the The nature of humanity is it is a pyramid structure, and you. It's not that somebody made it like that. It is like that. And so when you were asking a question in that term, in those terms, it implies that somebody made it like that. No, it comes like that naturally. It's automatic. And you can't make it otherwise. Like for example, there are some societies where it was decided that everybody's equal, so they all have to dress the same, but you can't. You can be equally dressed the same, but you all have different capacities, and a society doesn't operate by everything being exactly the same. So he gives us this example of the beehive, and which is a very, very good example, because there's lots of different things that different bees do, and then the hive can work. And if everybody's all the same, nothing's going to work. So that's just that.
And souls are number wise, which is a given.
Yes. I mean, not all souls have 84 births. And even in a soul who has 84 births, some people have the role, the sanskaras, the capacity to be a king. Some don't. And whatever is your capacity, it will express itself naturally in the circumstances of the golden age. When you're in the Iron Age, you get people who are not very capable in high positions and people who are very capable not in high positions. So that everything's always upside down, and things don't work very well because of lots of reasons. But in the golden age, everyone is in the position that corresponds exactly to who they are, and that contributes enormously to the harmony of that world. And in the present time, people don't recognize who's who, and people give importance to stuff that's not important, and they don't give importance to things that are important. So everything is just not right in this world. So it doesn't work.
Another question, Sister Denise. It's only now at the confluence age that the seed will be sown in the founder souls of all the religions and the souls of all the professions. They will carry such power away within them that they will become the inventors of their own religion or their own profession at their own time. You have to prepare all the seeds so that they can become the instruments for their own department at their own time. Can Sister Denise elaborate on this?
Well, you can't really elaborate on it too much, I don't think, but suffice it to say that, if you take, for example, a lot of BKs had been trying to find out, okay, who is the Christ soul? And it is known in Christianity that the Christ soul is currently a beggar. And a beggar doesn't mean somebody on the street, but somebody who is probably has a great deal of love for the Christ soul, may not be in a very high position, may be a monk, but unrecognizable, unrecognized, but will recognize Gyan, will recognize Baba, and will, on the basis of that, recognize who the self is. In terms of science, it may be the soul of a very great scientist who lived in earlier times, has reincarnated, and may be very interested in science, but not recognized. But they will recognize this knowledge. They will come to Baba, and they will recognize who they are, because they have that sanskaras which gets woken up when they have this encounter with Baba, and they need to get power, and they need the knowledge so that they can then be who they are destined to be. It's something more like that.
You've been very busy these past days
Yes.
with so many classes, and they have all been so far uploaded, right? The one on resilience and thriving, and the one that you did with the Columbia as instrument teachers from Columbia, and the Murli notes that you have been also churning out to us. And especially Sister Denise, the one of January 7, I feel was very deep, and it's really worth thinking about and understanding and reflecting. And, there's so much richness there. And so I think the intellect can never run out of jewels to play with.
Well, we get new breakfast every morning in the form of a new Murli. And even though we have 5 years worth of Murlis plus the Avyat Murlis that we are studying, when Baba left the body and Avyat Baba was asked, okay, what do we do now? Because no more Murlis. He said, well, can you remember what was in the Murli 1 year ago from today? And nobody could. So he said, okay, that means you'd better study this because you couldn't remember it all. And we experienced that, the essential points are there in all the Murlis, but there's always something that is new. And even if we know theoretically we've heard this before, there are many occasions where you feel this is absolutely new. And you hear the Murli in the context of the time, and so certain points will jump out at you because of the context, and then you'll start to think about those. So it is an amazing treasure that we have, which keeps on stimulating the mind. And so, yeah, that's what we have.
Sister Denise, there's a request for one more question to be asked. Again, this has something to do with a context. In the Murli of January 6th, Baba says, just as we came bodiless, so we have to go back bodiless. It is also mentioned in a scripture that you even have to renounce your stick. So what is this story?
This is one of the stories of Janak. King Janak was known to be a Raj Rishi, and that he was detached. And so the sannyasi says that's not possible, that a person can have all this wealth of a kingdom and family and everything and still be detached, because they believe that if you have it, you're automatically attached to it. And so Baba talks about this story because, you see, BKs are not sannyasis. We live in the context of family and professional activities and society and so on. And our function is to bring in the energy of Baba's remembrance and a life of purity into a society which has been polluted by this and that. So the symbol of a BK is a lotus. That means you're in the world but not of the world. So in this story about King Janak, there was the sannyasi who came to visit him to check whether he was really detached or not. And in the story, there was a messenger who came in to speak to the king, and the king said, okay, and the messenger left. And then the messenger came again a little bit later, a little bit more urgently, gave a message to the king. The king said, okay, and the messenger left. And then a third time, the messenger came and said, this is really urgent. And the king said to the sannyasi, okay, we have to go now. The palace is on fire. And so they left. And then the sannyasi said, oh, I left my stick behind, but it was too late. So that's the stick. And the sannyasi was attached to his stick, even though that was all he had. So it's just really a kind of what you can say like a joke. that being a sannyasi and not having anything doesn't prove that you're detached.
Sister Denise, thank you that we are also hearing the stories behind the, the lines in the Murlis.
Mm.
And so in the face of so much distress, and as you use the word horror that's happening now in the world, again, the underlining importance of staying in this awareness of soul consciousness and Baba is more than ever has to be ingrained.
Yes.
And so that it becomes more and more a very natural experience.
Yes, I think it's harder for people now because the way I look at it, Baba was there physically for everybody, and so they felt very supported. And then he became Avyat, and then there was the Avyat sustenance. Everyone was supported, but now it's as if he's become incorporeal, and he's saying, okay, you know everything now, you get on with it. And people are really having to rely upon their own selves to have this practice, because by the time you leave your body on your own. And so very, very slowly over a long, long period of time, he is getting us ready to let go of everything in very, very difficult conditions. And this is why he's taking so long and talking to us about it in so much detail, so that we do practice it, and then we can do it. Because if you don't, then it's very difficult to come down just by closing your eyes and opening them again. Because if you close your eyes in extreme trauma, it's not the stability of just closing and opening. So you can't go through the cycle with just an instance in between one cycle and another. And this is what we're trying for.
Thank you so much, Sister Denise. And I think you gave a very appropriate summary when you said we have to be compassionate and have empathy and yet not be pulled into it.
Yeah, not so easy, Raj Yoga. Yeah.
So, Om Shanti, Sister Denise.
Om Shanti, and thank you so much, and thanks to everyone.